we were discussing about the bus structure. Now, what is a bus? A bus is a group of lines or a group of wires that carries the information, right? So, bus will be responsible to carry the information. Now, what information it carries? The information can be, it can be data, it can be address, or it can represent the status. Accordingly, the bus is, we have three different types of bus. One is called data bus, the other is called address bus, and if the information, if the bus carries the status information, then such type of bus, we term it as status bus. If the bus contains n lines, then how many addresses we can generate? We can generate from 0 to 2 raised to n minus 1 addresses we can generate. And if it is a data, and the data I consider for our discussion unsigned data, then what will be the minimum value of the data that carries on that n bus lines? It will be 0 to, again, 2 raised to n minus 1. For example, if I consider that we have 8 lines, and these 8 lines will represent the address bus, then the minimum address will be 0, 0h, and maximum address will be f, f, h. If I write in decimal, then it is from 0 to 255. And if that 8 lines represents the information as data, then the minimum value will be 0 and the maximum value will be 255. If it is signed, then we have a different approach. Then I need to divide this scale into negative and the positive number scale. What is the purpose of the bus? One purpose is to carry the information, and bus is also used to connect the different system resources. Now, which are the major system resources? Processor, then we have memory, then we have output device, and then we have input device. So these are the major system resources. Now, these major system resources are connected together with the help of a group of lines that is called a bus. If I use the same group of lines to connect all the system resources together, then such type of bus structure is called as single bus structure. Now, what is the problem in the single bus structure we observe? If if I look at the performance of these system resources, processors are very fast, right? And today's memory elements are also becoming fast. And but these two resources, that is input and output resources, are slower, because when the processor connects to an input device or output device, since we have only one bus, now the processor cannot communicate or exchange or go with the memory element, because the bus is busy connecting for processor and the IO devices. And since IO devices being slower devices, the processor will be kept idle. It will be kept idle. So it won't go and connect with the memory, because there is no path available to communicate between processor and memory, since we have only one single path, right? So processor needs to go into wait state. So this is the major problem if we have in a single bus structure. But what is the merit in the single bus structure? The merit is, it is very simple in construction. Have a group of lines and connect all the major system resources. So there is no logical, or there is no big algorithm needs to be implemented to make the processor to to its optimal usage. I want to use this processor to its maximum limit. or I can put this like this: the processors are not optimally used here, efficiently used in the single bus structure. Now, what is that second approach? The second approach is I need to make use of multiple bus structure. Multiple bus structure. Now, what is multiple bus structure? The multiple bus structure help us to have a separate path between processor and IO devices and a separate bus between processor and memory. So I will draw two different buses. This is input device. Here we have output device, and this is memory. And here we have a processor. Now, processor and memory, we have a separate bus, and the processor and output device and input devices, we have a separate bus. Whenever a processor communicates with the IO devices through its IO bus, and here we have a memory bus. Now I'm going to explain the multiple bus. So what is the demerit in a single bus? The processor will be kept idle most of the time. Processor is not efficiently being used, because if the processor connects with the input output device, and the simultaneously processor cannot be communicate or cannot exchange the data or cannot read the data from the memory, because the bus is being busy connecting with the IO devices. To overcome that one, we have a multiple bus structure. In this multiple bus structure, what we are saying, multiple bus structure concept is applied for efficient usage of processor. How we can make our processor efficient? By minimizing the idle time of the processor. How do we minimize the idle time or wait time of a processor? By having two separate bus. One is IO bus, the other one is memory bus. Say for example, when the processor has connected with an IO devices, since IO devices are slower in nature, right? Now we will not keep the processor in idle or wait state, because the processor can also communicate with the memory through a different channel. No doubt the IO bus is busy when it connects with the IO, but you have a separate bus to communicate with memory. So hence we can optimize the usage of the processor. So that is the meaning of multiple bus structure. Next topic is software. Now, what is software? Software is a set of programs. Now, what are programs? Programs are set of instructions. Now, who will execute the instruction? The instructions are being executed by the processor, right? So if you want to build a complete software, then we will be having many programs. Program number 1, program number 2, and it contains n program. So all these programs combined together, we call it as a software. Now these programs, depending upon the objective, what that program is meant for, softwares are classified into two types. One is system software and the other one is applications software. Now, what is system software? If you have written a series of program or a set of programs that directly accesses the system resources. If you have written a program and that program will have a direct access to what? Your memory, right? Input output devices, the timer circuits, the other resources, the counter circuits, right? And your serial communication ports. So system program, a program which directly talk with the system resources. So such type of programs, we call it as system program, system software. So inside the system software, you are going to modify the registers. You are playing with the processor's memory. The program, if it contains the processor's registers, right, and you are directly accessing the memory, you are specifying the direct memory locations, then such type of softwares, we call it as system software. Whereas in application software, it is the objective of application software is to design the application. We are only going to use the hardware. Here we are going to only use the hardware. But while writing the program, the programmer does not know the knowledge how many registers are there, and here there won't be any kind of addressing modes we are applying in while writing the program. Applications are written in a high level languages. It can be C++, Java, right? Or Python, R programming. So these are application programmers. We do not require the system's resources detail. Now, who will give you the access to the hardware resources? It is the operating system. In system, if you want to become a system software engineer, you must have a knowledge about the hardware as well as the programming language, because you are going to write the program directly with respect to the system resources, right? But when you become an application software, the hardware knowledge is not required. Who is going to give you access of these hardware resources? Even the application programming also using the hardware resources, but indirectly. The programmer is not directly accessing the hardware resources. On behalf of that, so I will draw a picture to understand this. Here we have the system resources. I will call it as hardware. Now, what I mean by hardware? It is a processor or memory or input devices, output devices, timer circuits, counter circuits, serial communication ports. Many are the system resources. Now, these are the system resources all together. And here you have, if you are writing an application programmer, so here this is your application software. Now, where is your system software? System software means if you write a program here, then such type of softwares we call it as system software. The best example for system software is OS, operating system, because operating system directly communicate and protects your hardware. In operating system, you can have what? You can do memory management, processing management, input management, output management, right? And you can schedule the processes, you can schedule the algorithm. So all these are sets of programs falls under system software. Now then we have some plug and play devices. So for plug and play devices, so we will be having another layer of programming, and that we call it as device drivers. Even device drivers also sometime partially it will directly access the hardware resources in order to protect our system resource. So device drivers are also not given direct access to the hardware resources. Why? Because these devices are meant from third party. I don't know with what intention that third party has designed that device. In order to protect our resources, again, these device drivers needs to go via operating system. Now, who will convert our application programming? Therefore, after writing our program, we will pass through what? Compilers, right? Linkers, then locators and loaders. So these are the additional software that will help us to convert our application software into the executable file. And all the complexity will be taken care by these compilers, linkers, locators, and loaders. I can configure what? I can manage the storage area. I can run the standard application program. I can control the IO units, right? I can convert, this OS can convert the application software into object file and then object file into executable file. So these are the major features of OS. So those features of OS you must remember. So what OS will do? OS will manage the system resources. So it manage system resources. So we have process management, memory management, input management, and output management. So these are the major management inside the processing. So it will schedule the algorithm. It can schedule the algorithm. If 2 or 3 programs wants to access the same memory location without any conflict, the operating system will schedule the priority. It will assign the priority based upon its need, based upon its importance. So who is doing all those things? operating system. So we have told in the operating system, based upon the need of the processor, if simultaneously requests are coming, then which process needs to be given the priority, that OS will decide. And we have different ways of scheduling the algorithm. And I can run the standard application program, right? And I can control the IO units, that in IO management we can do. And also it will help us to convert our application program that is written in high level language. It will produce the object file, and further finally it will convert into executable file. Next concept is buffer register. Either I can go with the multiple bus structure, or I can go with what? The single bus structure. I will create a scenario wherein we have a processor, memory, and the input device I will consider here as keyboard, and output device I consider as a printer. And I'm using a single bus structure. Why I prefer using single bus structure? Because it is simple and it is very cost effective. If we have multiple bus structure, then complexity will be more. Lots of wires will be there in the system. So therefore, we usually prefer what? Single bus structure. Now the processor wants to print something like 100 pages. We have a content, and these 100 pages needs to be printed, right? And the processor is very fast in putting the data on the bus, on the data bus. So the content of these pages, what we have, now these contents the processor needs to put onto where? Onto the data bus. And via data bus, it will reach to the printer, and the printer will start printing. And look at the speed of the printer, and these are very slow in nature, right? Or it will print how many pages? So it can print, say for example, in 1 minute, it will print 10 pages per minute. 10 pages per minute. This is the capacity of printer. Now to print 100 pages, now how many minutes it will take? Around 10 minutes it will take. Can we make our processor to be idle for 10 minutes? Answer is no. Because it is not reasonable to keep our processor, right, busy or idle for 10 minutes to print 100 pages document, right? And the printer by itself cannot print by its own, right? The processor needs to guide the printer which page needs to be print. First page, after that second page, third page, fourth page. So processor is master and printer is slave. Now, because of the speed of the printer, and within these 10 minutes, the keyboard, you cannot type anything, and the processor will not read anything from the keyboard, or it cannot store anything, or it cannot process further from the memory, because this bus was busy between printer and the processor for the next 10 minutes. But this is not acceptable. We cannot make our processor idle. Where is the problem? The problem is with the printer, right? The processor is very fast. It can, in a fractions of second, it can put all the data onto the database. But since we cannot have a separate bus between what? Processor and printer, because it is going to increase the cost and the complexity will also increase. I cannot have a separate bus between processor and printer, processor and keyboard, processor and the mouse, processor and the memory. So I cannot have what? A different bus structure between every individual system resources. So that is also not feasible. We have a concept of, since the printer, I cannot improve the speed of the printer, right? Because we have its challenges we have many challenges at the printer side, and we cannot match the printing speed with the processor speed. So that is, at this stage, we cannot think about matching the speed of printer with the speed of the processor. Now, what best we can do is, we will have a concept of what? A buffer register. If I place the buffer register, what happens is if the processor wants to print 100 pages, all these 100 pages, it will dump where? Into a buffer register. And we will ask the printer to read the content from where? From the buffer register, and let the printer works on its own speed, 10 pages per minute. And where are the next 10 pages? Again, it is in the buffer register. What is the job of the processor? The job of the processor needs to be put the content that is 100 pages into some buffer and let the printer read from the buffer, so that the processor is free now, free for doing the other task. In earlier, without buffer register, what was happening? The processor was tied down to the printer for the next 10 minutes, unless and until the printer completes all 100 pages. Right? So to overcome this problem, what we have came up with an organization is a buffer register. Place a buffer register, put the content in buffer register, and let the printer prints the pages and read it from the buffer register instead of processor. And the processor can be available for other operations. It can be keyboard operation or memory related operations. So that is why we require buffer registers. Next topic is user program. Who will execute the OS routines, subroutine program? It is a processor, right? And here we have written our own application program. Now what OS will do? OS will get the access from the disk, right? Because our programs are stored where? In the disk, and it will retrieve and it will give what? Some time to execute this program. It is application program. So now it is using application program. Now our application program, again, it wants to access the next part of the program. So again, the next part of the program, where it is available? Again, it is available in the disk. So directly it cannot access. Again, it needs to go via operating system routines. Again, operating system routines will identify the which part of the program you need, and it will read it from the disk. And again, via OS routine, again, it will be available and it will start executing T3 to T4. Now, at this time, again, the user program needs what? It needs to use printer this time, not the content of the memory, right? Now, again, it needs to request to the OS routine. Now, OS routine will check whether what is the status of the printer. It will communicate with the printer, and then that printer will be available back. And at T5, the printer will be given an access to the application program. So using this timing diagram, we can demonstrate how the user program and the OS routine will be sharing the process. Is our program, user program will have a direct access to the resources? Answer is no. So this will be what? Our interfacing layer. The top part is the hardware resources or the system resources. And here we have who sits between the hardware resources and the user. It is the operating system. And operating system will manage the processor. So we call it as processor management. Likewise, we have memory management and then IO management.